Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a new session of I Get It Live. My name is James Keller. I'm a content developer here at I Get It and a SOLIDWORKS subject matter expert. And today we're going to be taking a look at custom weldment profiles and custom thread profiles. So, quick session overview for custom profiles. We'll go over the processes used to create and apply these custom weldment and thread profiles. So after completion of the session, you should have all the tools you need to make these things yourself. And this is not complicated stuff. If you guys know sketches, you can make your own profiles. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm also going to go into the thread feature a little bit. It's not necessarily new. It was introduced in 2016, I believe. But if you haven't used the thread feature itself, you'll learn a little bit about that in this session as well. So there's a nice screenshot of what that might look like on a simple bolt there. So again, you're going to learn how profiles are used in SOLIDWORKS. We'll be using SOLIDWORKS 2018 for this example. Learn how they work, learn where they're stored, and how they can be applied. And how file hierarchies affect what you see in your property manager options when you do apply them. How to create thread features. Like I said, we're going to go over that briefly. I'll just show an example and go through some of the options so you guys are familiar with thread features if you haven't used them before. And how to modify and save a profile sketch. Basically, you have to save these profile sketches as library features instead of regular part documents. So there's a special little technique for that we'll cover a few times just so we make sure we got it down. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll jump right into SOLIDWORKS 2018. And I've already got a model open here. This is just a simple trailer weldment. You can see that basically we have a couple different frames. If you guys aren't familiar with weldments in general, basically you start with a sketch. You can see this sketch that I have here defining where the weldments go. And that's basically the skeleton for your weldment structure. So weldments will end up basically following the geometry of the sketch that you create, various sketches. So you can see as I build it up, we built some square structural members. We added some gussets here, added some welds and continue to build up this structural member until we have the end result here. And you can see here, if I go over our decking here, you could hit the tab key just while I'm hovering with the mouse, I can hide that component and to show you the entire weldment feature there with gussets. Hovering a hidden component and hitting Shift tab will bring it back. So there's a little quick key for you. Hopefully that's something new to you guys. So the aim I want to do, excuse me, in this example is we've got this main structural member here that it's kind of overlapping the side rails a little bit, and this isn't as clean as I'd like it to look. We're using a circular profile here just to create a pipe, basically extrusion weldment for that structural member. I want to try to keep the rigidity of this size pipe, but narrow it down in the x-axis so it fits nicely against these smaller pipe weldments for the railings. So what I want to create is an elliptical extrusion. So an elliptical pipe basically to replace this pipe for the weldment. So we still keep the length and or width rather in the y-axis, but we're going to narrow things up in the x-axis. And if I go ahead and edit this structural member here, just click and do edit feature, show you a couple of the options. So we got ANSI inch here and ISO as the two default options. looks like I created a new folder in that file location, which is why it's showing new folder there. That's empty, I'm sure. So by default, you'll see both the ANSI inch and ISO options. We're going to stick with ANSI. And you can see here that I have a whole bunch of different types of ANSI inch options, but none of them are going to be the elliptical tube I'm looking for. We got, you know, square and rectangular tube, and the pipe options that you saw there before. So go into pipe, and you can see that I've got different schedules here. That's schedule 40. It's the same wall thickness for all 3 of these options, and I think I had the 1.5 inch schedule 40 applied. So that's how I selected that initially. But again, you can see from those options I just went through that there was no elliptical pipe section for me to choose from. So I'm going to have to create that. I'm going to go ahead and exit this. And to create my new elliptical weldment profile, I'm going to go ahead and start a new part. Just double click that, and we'll go ahead and create a sketch on the front plane. I'm just going to use my ellipse tool to draw just a rough ellipse here. And then I'm going to use Smart Dimension to dimension this at 2 inches high by 1.5 inches wide. And I think that's exactly what we need here. I'm going to make some changes to this sketch here. I'm just going to go ahead and, before I commit to those dimensions, double check that that's what we were looking for. So go back into my structural member here and edit it. And so 1.5 is actually too wide. So I think I'm going to go back and change those dimensions to make a little bit smaller ellipse. So what we do want is 1.5 on the y-axis, but just 1 inch for the x-axis there. Now you can see that my sketch is still blue here, meaning it's not fully defined, and basically I just haven't constrained the endpoints here. So if I make these two endpoints vertical to each other, that means now I can't rotate it about its middle there, its center. So now that I have all black sketch geometry, we know that it is a fully defined sketch. So it can't be accidentally changed. I'm going to have to go ahead and create a wall thickness here as well. So I'm just going to select my outside profile, and in Sketch, I'll do an offset entities command, and we'll offset it by 0.16 inches. And when they do, when they're talking about sizes of pipes, they're talking about inner diameter. So we're going to go ahead and offset that to the outside. I had the option there to add a dimension with the offset, so it automatically constrained the sketch using this dimension, so everything is fully defined. And I'm getting close to ready to save this up. Again, let's digress a little bit. I'm going to show you where these profiles are located. So program data for me, SOLIDWORKS 2018. And in my design library, I've put my weldment profiles. Now this is not the default place SOLIDWORKS puts weldment profiles. By default, SOLIDWORKS will install them in a read-only folder. So I've just moved this weldment profile folder from the read-only folder to my design library because it's editable. And rather than making the whole folder that originally by default held the weldment profiles readable, I just went ahead and moved the weldment profiles location. You can tell where your weldment profiles are located or any other file are located by going into your system options and selecting file locations. And then from the drop down, you can select any option that you're looking for. So weldment profiles right here, you can see that this is telling me where my current weldment profile is set. SOLIDWORKS will look here for my weldment profiles. And again, I've made that custom. So if you just look in this place for your installation, it'll tell you where your weldment profiles are currently located, and you'll either know where they are or you can move them at that point. Same thing with thread profiles. We'll look at this again later, but this is also where you would go to find the default location for thread profiles. So, or any other file location that SOLIDWORKS will draw from. So if this wasn't an area that you knew about, hopefully this helps you out a little bit. So I'll just say OK and go back to my file there. So this is where my weldment profiles are in the design library, and we can see that the file hierarchy is what basically is drawn into those options for selecting when you select the profile within the feature. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this new folder here, and if I jump back by hitting Control Tab, if I jump back to my original trailer weldment and edit this again, we can see that now that new folder option has gone away in this first layer of hierarchy here. So the hierarchy that you create for your folder structure will be repeated in the options drop-downs. So again, here are those options, and if I jump into pipe even more, you can see the three options we saw in the third drop-down. Now in this case, they have three different SOLIDWORKS library feature parts, and so rather than being SLD PRT, these are going to be SLD LFP parts. So for library feature. In this case, there are three separate ones. I like to keep things a little bit leaner by using configurations. So rather than having three separate instances of this profile, I could make a configuration for the other ones and then keep multiple options within a single library feature part. It just keeps things a little bit more streamlined. It's the way I like to work. So let's go ahead and do that now. We'll go into configurations. Now, the default configuration will not show up in the drop-down list. So if you're going to work this way, it's good practice to go ahead and repeat the existing configuration. I'll go ahead and exit my sketch here. And then I can right-click, do Add Configuration, and we'll just call this 1.5 by 1. I don't need to really add anything else here. That's good enough. And we can see that this 1.5 by 1 part, or configuration rather, is exactly the same as my default. But again, the default will not show up in the drop-down. So if I want to have this option available to me, I just needed to copy it. We'll go ahead and create one more configuration, and this time call it 2 by 1.5. So we're going to make things a little bit larger. And with that configuration active, I can go back in and edit my sketch and make everything a little bit larger. Now this is an important distinction here. Now that I'm changing this dimension, I want to make sure that from the drop-down over here in the dimension dialog that I choose this configuration. If I choose all configurations, it's going to change for my other configuration too, and there actually won't be any difference between the two sizes. So that's important to make sure that when you're doing configuration changes or different options within a single part for configurations, you make sure they're applied to the configuration you'd like it to. So I'll go ahead and say OK for that, and then we'll do the same thing for here at 1.5 inches and apply to this configuration. And again, my wall thickness is maintained here because of this offset dimension. Go to exit the sketch, and when I go back to configurations and switch between the two, you can see the size change. So I've basically defined all the sketch geometry I need for this profile. It's pretty simple in this case. You can add additional sketch geometry like center lines. They can help SOLIDWORKS decide, excuse me, start over again, how to orient a weldment profile when you apply them. These aren't necessary, but sometimes they can help when you're doing more complex weldment profiles. So just food for thought there. I'm going to go ahead and delete this just so I don't have any unexpected behavior. And this is also a very important part for saving out library features. You'll have to select the sketch in the feature tree before you save the part. If you do not select this, SOLIDWORKS will give you a myriad of errors along the lines of, this is an empty library feature, are you sure you want to save, something like that. And this is something that has tripped me up often, especially when I'm working quickly. Got to make sure that the sketch you want is selected, which is also cool because if you had a much more complex part and say you only wanted to use a single sketch in your part to use as a library feature, you don't have to start an entirely new part and make that sketch on its own. You could just select that in the feature tree, and that will be the only thing saved out as a library feature. So once the sketch you want to make your profile is selected, just go to Save As, and we're going to select Library Feature Part here, the second one from the top. And SOLIDWORKS has kind of already put me in my design library here, and I can go into Weldment Profiles, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder here and call it Custom. So these are where all my custom profiles will live. And I will save this as, since it's not a specific size, I've got two different sizes in there, I'm just going to call it Ellipse. And save it out. Now I know that that was saved successfully as a library feature part because now I've got this little L attached to the icon on my feature tree. So that confirmed for me that things were saved correctly. I could also go in and double check and make sure that it's still sitting there, and it is. So we know that I've created that correctly. Now let's go back in and add that profile to the structural member. So we don't need to recreate the structural member or anything. I can just edit it. And instead of selecting ANSI inch, I'll go in and choose my custom option. And there's my ellipse with the configured annotation there, letting me know that there are configurations driving the size options rather than separate part files, or rather library feature files. And we can see here that the two options I created exist and not the default option. So I will select the 1.5 by 1, and when I do, SOLIDWORKS goes ahead and applies that, and we can see from the preview that it looks pretty much exactly how I was hoping it to. We don't have any overlap, and all I have to do is hit OK to apply that new custom weldment profile. So this will work with any profile you can sketch in SOLIDWORKS and apply it as a custom weldment profile. Now we've got the strength we wanted in the Y direction while getting rid of that overlap we had that made things look a little ugly there. All right, so that's basically custom weldment profiles in a nutshell there. Pretty simple. Again, the keys there are making sure your file structure is maintained and in an editable area for you, and also that you select the sketch that you want to make the profile in the tree before you save as library feature. Those two key points will always end up giving you solution you're looking for. So let's go ahead and jump into looking at thread profiles. First, I'm going to just show you the feature and kind of give you a rundown of the thread feature in general before I get into custom thread profiles. So I'm going to hit R on my keyboard to bring up my recently open documents. Again, R, you can see it just pop up there. And we've got this hex lag screw that I made to kind of show you the thread feature. We got the thread feature last here. If I roll up, you can see that basically this is just a screw without any threads added to it. And then I've added the thread feature. So I'm just going to edit this to kind of show you some of the options. Depending on your computer's capability, you have different preview options down here. Shaded preview uses the most memory, and depending on your graphics card, may bog things down, but most likely it'll work just fine. But if you're having trouble seeing the thread preview, or it's taking a while for it to make changes in the graphics area, go ahead and come down here and try a wireframe, which you can change to different levels of clarity, or you can even just do a partial preview. In my case, shaded preview works just fine, so we'll keep that active. This option is available in many SOLIDWORKS features, so if you see similar behavior when you're working with a different feature, go down to the preview option and see if that makes things work a little bit faster for you. Starting with the first option, we'll go ahead and just delete this. Right click, I can hit delete. And all it's prompting you for is a cylindrical edge to define the thread. So any cylindrical edge will give you the selection you're looking for. In this case, I'm using this edge. And we also have an offset option here. In this case, I'm using a sketch point to define it, but you could define an offset at a blind value here. You're just using an offset distance. You can choose no offset, and you also have an angle here to this chooses basically the rotational angle that your thread starts at. So let's see here. I can show that by, you can see that the thread starts right here on the side. If I change that to 90 degrees and apply it, you can see how now the thread starts at a different 90 degrees from where it did before. In this case, it doesn't really matter, so I'm just going to keep that at 0. Continuing on from the end conditions, different end condition options. You have blind that you can just set a value. I've got this at 3 inches, or you can choose to do a number of revolutions. 30 revolutions is close to what we had there at 3 inches. Or you can do an up to selection option and say choose this edge right here for it to go up to. And there we have, now we have threads all the way down the entire shaft. So we're going to stick with blind here at 3 inches. More options in the specification type. For die, obviously that's going to remove material from the screw side, and tap, that would remove material from the nut side, so, or whatever hole side that you were, threaded hole you were going into. So that's a nice quick way to say if you're making a combination of a screw and a threaded hole that it needed to be screwed into, you can apply those two options. We have the same for metric. Got a bottle option here for bottle thread. I think that's by default. And I've also got a couple of custom ones in here that you may not see in your SOLIDWORKS installation. I've already got the custom bottle option here, and I've created a vice screw profile, which is just a square profile. So these are custom for my system, and you'll see how those are done here shortly. Excuse me. So again, similar options to the weldment profiles. A lot of different size options here for this one. Currently, we're using the 0.75 by 10 option. So the second option here is the thread spacing, and the first option is the thread diameter. We'll keep that selected. I'm going to go ahead and change this back to inch die. So we're removing material from the screw. Similar options here. You can do cut thread to remove material, or extrude thread, which will add material. So depending on whether the profile sits on the outside proud of the silhouette edge here of the surface, or inside the surface, will dictate whether you use cut thread or extruded thread. So if I did one of those and then mirrored the profile, for example, now this would create a thread on the outside of the shaft rather than cutting it away. So you have lots of options here to make your threads exactly how you need them to. And some more thread options: right hand, left hand, multiple start options. You can do some trimming options here, but we won't go into all that. Lastly, I just wanted to show you what it looks like with offset versus no offset. So I'm just going to keep offset unchecked there, and you can see that my thread kind of starts abruptly right here at the beginning of that edge I selected to define the thread. So that's why offsets are important. We don't want that. That wouldn't work in reality. So we want this thread profile to extend off the edge, and that's why an offset works in this case. I'm just going to choose this point here for an offset reference rather than entering in a specific offset distance. It just works in this case. So that's why I went with it. And then when I hit OK, you can see now that the thread starts much more realistically and starts outside of the actual surface here that the thread is cut into. So there we go. That's a quick overview of the thread feature in SOLIDWORKS. So it's a lot nicer than if you're used to working with pre-2016 versions. You would have to create a helix spiral and 3D sketch, and then use a swept profile cut feature to create these threads in the past. And they were also pretty memory intensive, so they would take a while to rebuild, and it was just not that practical to actually model threads before this feature became available. And then still in large assemblies, it's much more practical to just use a graphical display of thread rather than actually modeling it. But if you want to get there, this is how it's done. All right, so let's move into our custom thread example. I'm going to use a bottle example. So again, I'm going to hit R on my keyboard to bring up this large bottle model that I've been looking at previously. See, it's just a simple bottle, much like a 2-liter bottle here, and I want to add a new custom thread profile here. Quickly, if I go ahead and select this face and choose normal to, you can kind of see what this thread profile looks like. So we've got a nice symmetrical profile here, up to down, or at least along the y-axis. And what I want to change this to is something that's a little bit more shallow of an angle here at the top, and a little bit steeper of an angle here at the bottom. So it maybe grabs a little bit more as you screw on the cap. Maybe round things out a little bit more too. So that's what I want to do and apply it to this bottle. Now before we move on, you can see here I've got revolve feature. It got reversed in this situation. I'll have to edit this real quick, and I'll just flip that. And this is something I've done to take this thread and just taper it back into the bottle itself. You can see the way I've created that. It doesn't stick out from the inside. It just goes right into the bottle and kind of transitions from that thread profile into the bottle naturally. And I'll show you how that was done here by creating it on the top half. So all I need to do is select this face. I'm going to create a sketch on that face. And with that face selected, I'll just do convert entities. So real quickly, I just grabbed all the edges I need to continue this swept profile that I'm going to use to go into the bottle here and make that nice transition, or revolve rather. So now that I've got the profile I need, I could exit the sketch, but I don't need to. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into the revolve boss face command. And now I need an axis of revolution. And in my profile sketch for this bottle model, I actually hid an axis there. So all I got to do is show that, and we can see I've got this little axis line right here that's off center. So this is the center of my bottle. Here's a little center line I put in there that isn't part of the extrude or revolve geometry, but I can use it for my axis here. So once I do that, you can see now that I've got this revolution there into the bottle. And rather than making it blind, 360, they go up to surface. And looks like we need to choose the direction there, change that. And I'm just going to pick the inside surface here. And so that way, it'll ensure to go through to where we don't have any weird gaps possibly here, but it won't poke out on the inside of the bottle. It'll be a nice, clear transition. So hitting OK, and now you can see that's how I created those two nice transitions at the end of my bottle thread there. So just a little tip for you if you're trying to create these nice transitions. And when I change my thread profile, these transitions should follow suit because of the way they were modeled. All right. So let's go ahead and get into making the custom thread profile. This is much like creating the Weldment profile that we saw earlier, except for this time, I think I'm going to start by opening an existing thread profile and working from it. So again, I'm going to go into File Locations and double check, see where my thread profiles are located. Okay, they're at Program Data, SOLIDWORKS 2018 Thread Profiles. So now I'm going to go dive into that folder. Here we go. Thread profiles right down here. Now, got a custom bottle on here because I've already made this once before. We'll just overwrite that here shortly. But what I started from was this SP4XX bottle profile right here. This is one provided by default. And it doesn't really open well from here because I have multiple versions of SOLIDWORKS on this computer. So I'm just going to copy this file location and then go into Open in SOLIDWORKS and paste that location and go to it. So now I can open this. It's going to say read only, which is fine because I'm going to save it in the new location. I'll keep this as the older version for now. Again, I don't want to overwrite the existing profile. In this case, I'm not going to downgrade my SOLIDWORKS from 2018, whatever service pack it is, but probably good practice to make sure that you don't overwrite files unless you're sure you don't need to use them for prior versions. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Just save it. Oh, it's .read only, so it won't save. That's also another reason I'm going to have to save this out in a new location. So we'll just go ahead and look at this normal here. And I'm just going to make some changes to this thread profile. We're looking at it kind of opposite of how it's going to be applied. So just knowing that, I know exactly what I need to alter on it. You can see that there's already a library feature part denoted by the L here in the sketch icon. I can edit the sketch, and I'm just going to change some of these existing dimensions here to make what I'm looking for. So this top angle is actually going to be the bottom angle. Again, I want to save this out before I start making these, because again, it's a read only. I keep on forgetting that. So I'm going to go save as, and this time I'm going to save it in a custom place, a read bottle or a read file on my computer. This is just something on my desktop that I've created. So we're saving it to a new place that isn't read only. I've already done it here. We're going to call it custom bottle, so I'm just going to overwrite this one. Save, replace it. Okay, that's fine. Update to the newer version. So now we have an editable part here. I'm going to go ahead and rebuild here, as it's indicating. Sometimes this is a soft rebuild up here. At least I call it a soft rebuild. Control B. If you hit Control Q on your keyboard, it does like a more extensive rebuild, which will sometimes get rid of those rebuild symbols if they are persistent and continue to show up, and you're like, hey, I thought I rebuilt. How come it's still giving me a rebuild error there? Try Control Q. So it does like a soup to nuts rebuild for you. Now I can go in here and edit this, and we'll get the dimension changes I want. Double click this. We'll make this 10 degrees instead of 30 degrees. And you can see we have some of the centerline geometry that I was talking about earlier in this part too, to help SOLIDWORKS align this profile the way it's meant to be. So now we've got kind of a little bit more asymmetry here. I think I'm going to go ahead and up this to 0.03 to make it a little bit more circular. Yeah, you know, maybe we'll do 0.05. There we go. That's pretty extreme, but I like it. It looks good. So now basically this is the new profile I'm going to be applying to that bottle. I'll go ahead and exit the sketch. Everything looks how I want. Now again, this is already saved as a library feature part, so I don't have to worry about selecting the sketch in this case. But if I had created this as a part sketch, remember, without selecting the sketch in the feature tree before saving as a library feature part, things won't work. So I'll just go ahead and save it in this case, and we still have a library feature part. And if I go to my location there, we can see that we got that located where I want, but my SOLIDWORKS is not going to look in this custom folder that isn't where it's pointing to for weldment profiles, or for thread profiles rather. So I'm just going to go ahead and Control C to copy this and put it back in my default thread location there. I think might have to go back and drill into that. Yeah, program data, SOLIDWORKS 2018, thread profiles. Again, my location may be slightly different than your location, but you could figure it out there from property, system properties. So I'm just going to paste this, replace the file in the destination, and now we have a new custom bottle thread there, and in the place where SOLIDWORKS is going to look for it. Now I'm going to do Control Tab to switch back to my bottle, and I'm just going to edit. Let's roll this up past these revolves and edit the current feature to apply the new profile. You know what, I did forget a spot here. I'm going to go back and change one thing here. Configurations. Got a bunch of them. Now, that change I made was applied to all the configurations. So I want to make sure I'm using the configuration that I know will fit that bottle, and which I think is this SP415-L-81. So I'll double check it to make sure it's the one I've got selected, and then I'm just going to delete all the configurations that are not the ones I need. I just hit the delete key on my keyboard while those were selected, and I'll say yes to all. Now with that configuration, selected, I'll have to go back in and make my my changes again. So edit the sketch. We're going to change this angle to 10 degrees, and I think this will give us the more dramatic curve that I was looking for initially. Again, maybe I'll up that to 0.045. There we go. All right, so pretty dramatic asymmetry here, but it's going to give us the mechanics we're looking for the thread feature. So now I've got the correct thread profile with the correct configuration, just one in this case. I know I don't need to apply different options for this custom one. So I'm going to make sure I save that in my custom location here. Files. Save it as custom bottle 2. And go back. We'll just delete this. I'm going to rename this real quick just because it wasn't letting me name it what I wanted to. Rename that back custom bottle. Oh, it's because it's open. We'll keep custom bottle 2. It's okay. I know what I'm looking for in the drop down. So I'll select that, copy it, and paste it back in the default thread profile location. Program data, SolidWorks, 2018, thread profiles. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this guy and paste my new custom bottle 2 option. All right, so now we're ready to apply it to the bottle. Control Shift to go back to my large bottle and edit the existing thread feature. And from the drop down, custom bottle 2, right there. See, there's only one size option because I got rid of all my other size options. And in the preview, if I look at it, you can see that it looks as expected there. All right, go ahead and say OK. And now we have the new custom thread profile applied. Very similar to the same way you'd apply custom weldment profiles. Things, just as an aside, things are looking a little maybe faceted here on all these curves. I can go into document properties and do an image quality and up things to their max there. And it might get, oh, looks, it cleaned things up a little bit. Now I got a nicer curvature display. Again, if your graphics card is a little older or not quite as powerful as you'd like, keeping that image display or image quality at a lower setting can help things sometimes. All right, so there we have our new profile and thread. Should work a little bit better for keeping that thread on or keeping that cap on tight. If I go ahead and bring the revolves in, you can see that they, because of the way they were defined, resolve just fine. So no errors at all. Work exactly how they were defined. And that is pretty much it for custom weldment profiles and custom thread profiles. Shorter session today. Hope you guys learned a little bit. You guys can implement this in your designs. We'll go ahead and continue on with a few more things here. If you guys have questions, feel free to type them into the questions box. Go to meeting. Let's see here if I can pull this out and read what we have here. Looks like we only have one question. Looks like someone joined a little late and will asking if we can view the webinar later. You can with a professional subscription to iGetIt. We'll cover that here in just a second. But if you guys have any questions specifically on custom weldment profiles or thread profiles, feel free to type them in there, or I'll bring my email back up here shortly. If you have questions about this session later on in the day or later on in the week, feel free to email me about this session, and I'm happy to answer for you. Unfortunately, I'm going to restrict those questions to just this session alone. So if you have other modeling questions, we'll have to leave it to I Get It to answer those for you. We got a lot of good training in there. Continuing on, it's not a SOLIDWORKS topic, but if you or anybody else in your organization works with CATIA V5, we're going to be doing a live session next Wednesday on sketch-based features with Eric Manson. He really knows this stuff well. He's on top of it, so you could definitely learn a lot from him. Yes, I guess the follow-up to Ross's question there is, yes, you have to have a professional subscription to watch these live sessions after the fact. If you have a quick question, Ross, and you want to type it in, if you missed something in the beginning, maybe I can answer for you. But professional subscription will get you access to any of these live sessions as long as we've ever done them at any time. So just food for thought there. Continuing on. Here's my information again. I'm James Keller, an instructional design and content quality manager here at I Get It. Again, a certified SOLIDWORKS subject matter expert, so you can be confident that I know what I'm talking about, or at least I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you've learned a little bit from the session this morning, and we'll be doing more SOLIDWORKS and other CAD-related live sessions in the weeks to come. So let me show you real quick where you guys can access that in your I Get It catalog. I have a lot of stuff here because so what you see may be different than your subscription, but just here on the left in the live section we have upcoming sessions, and then if you have that professional subscription you can watch any past recordings from there as well. So if you're just curious about what's coming up for future live sessions, again, they're free at the time of the session to all. So free learning is always fun. We have some CATIA stuff coming up tomorrow. Second part of how to manage your Autodesk account looks like. And then again, next week on Wednesday, we have part designing with CATIA. So a lot of different options here. So feel free to go check those out and see if there's anything else that looks interesting to you. And I think that's going to be it for today. Folks, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye now.